What's up, everybody? The best time of the year in sports. October, you obviously have the NFL in full swing. NBA starts, NHL starts. You have your combat sports, big events. You got everything you want. But nothing's more synonymous with October than October baseball. And we're about to kick off the 2022 MLB postseason, kick off all our coverage for the postseason as well. It's going to be a really fun month, especially with two New York teams making a push. So with that, great friend of the show, Alex Young is back. Alex, good to see you. What's up?
Good to see you, Matt. I was wishing, we'll dive into the Mets a little bit. I was hoping, we would clinch the NL East, though we fumbled the bag there. But other than that, I'm excited for some October baseball and talking postseason with you.
All right, we're about to have a really fun month ahead, Alex. It's going to be a good time. So before I hound you on that, and there is a lot to discuss there, but remember when we started this season? I mean, we didn't even know there was going to be a season. There was a lockout to start, and it's about a week later since the postseason starts now. But we're here, and look how far. Look at a crazy season it's been with major collapses, with players going big, and I guess the one thing we can highlight really quick is one of the best stories of the year. Aaron Judge hit 62 home runs. He breaks the all-time American League single-season home run record. Brings so much joy to many, and what a way to cap off the year for the Yankees. I know you're a Mets fan, but most importantly, a baseball fan. What did you think about the huge news coming out of Tuesday in the historic feat?
I was extremely happy to see it. Aaron Judge do that. I'm not a Met fan that hates the Yankees. I'm kind of indifferent towards the Yankees, but just as a baseball fan, seeing history happen and all the excitement and my buddy who's a Yankee fan, texting me when it was happening and, just to see the joy brought Yankee fans and also baseball fans, right? Like this is historic. We may not ever see something like this again, right? It took over 60 years for someone to hit 60 plus or 61 plus home runs in the American League, right? That's crazy to me. So it was awesome to see. I know he wanted to do it at Yankee Stadium before it didn't happen, but just to see the fans even in Texas go crazy to be a part of history and just the reception he got and all the congratulations he got from everyone, it just shows the class act that everyone sees Aaron Judge is. And, it was just something special. And, you could debate this here and there, see the true single season home run king now and all that stuff, but he made history and it was awesome to see. And, congratulations to Aaron Judge. And, hopefully that steers the Yankees for, some success this postseason too.
Absolutely. I'm amazed how many people really discredit this dude hitting 62 home runs. Like, come on. For one, obviously didn't do it on the juice. Two, this guy, no one's hitting 60 plus home runs usually. And in that little era when the juicers did it, your Sosa, McGuire's, Bonds, like I feel it really shows that, especially on Twitter, what can we enjoy without a negative twist to it? Yeah. Like I told people, get a life. Like the fact that you're that upset making these meetings for it, like, dude, the people upset, the college football fans, it's something special we don't get to see, especially in baseball as they're trying to regain some popularity again. And something like this for Judge clearly shows that. And I mean, he knows the fanfare is getting all the love. And this debate will be talked about later on in the offseason about him coming back or not. But Aaron Judge, look at the love you're getting. Look at the legacy you're creating. And again, I don't want to dwell on this too much because this is a conversation for another day. I feel like this could be a good reason for you to come back. Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. And also for everyone, case closed for MVP. It's locked up.
Yeah, right.
Don't care what anyone says. I know people were still vowing for Shohei Ohtani. It's over. It's Aaron Judge's award to win. Like if it is. That's the thing. People, it's Shohei's MVP. You do think we're never going to see something like this again. And to cap that off, he has to be the MVP. And what he's doing for that team. You take Aaron Judge off the Yankees, God knows what that team is right now.
we wouldn't be in the playoffs,
Yeah.
especially after a terrible August and early September. That's exactly the definition of most valuable player.
And I would only argue for Shohei if the Angels were winning and they have 2 generational talents and they're nowhere near the postseason. So
clearly,
I think most valuable player, terrible collapse there, but that's what I think. MVP, a guy you need on your team to elevate and get you guys to a postseason berth like he did and on this year. And like we said, picture him off this team, they're not in the playoffs. So give the award to Aaron Judge. I think that we could wrap it up there, but just congratulations to him again. I mean, it was just an incredible season to watch with so much joy. And that's me coming from him as a Mets fan. He had a home run off Taijuan Walker. And I was just like, well, okay. He's just grinding right now. So, congratulations to him again. It was just a fantastic season from him.
What a joy. What a joy. Now let's start our postseason coverage. Let's kick it off. The road to the World Series starts now. Exactly as we're recording this on the 5th of October, released the 6th. If we extended, Game 7 would be November 5th. So let's start this incredible ride, Alex.
Yeah.
At first, the New York Mets. That was a story that has lasted 2 days. Oh, well, and if it wasn't for Aaron Judge, I think that'd be a full 2-day story of that collapse across all sports. Where do I begin, Alex? You were up. Your team was up 10.5 games on June 1st. And though, because the debate was it collapse or what, but regardless, you had the big series coming into the final weekend of September, needing to just win 1 game. You have your 3 best pitchers and 2 Hall of Fame caliber pitchers who still are in their prime. You just need to win 1 with the tiebreaker. The offense is non-existent. The pitchers don't hold their own. And then after last night with Atlanta winning, they officially win the division with the Mets leading 95% of the time. And I guess to start this conversation before we see what road they have to take, which is going to be the tense one, just how are you feeling after this weekend and to today for being a Mets fan?
I'm one of the weird ones where I'm not being a defeatist or upset.
There's a lot of them.
Then there's a lot. I'm disappointed. I'm definitely disappointed. I think we can get through the Padres. I don't think I messaged my uncles and my dad. We have a Mets group chat. We're all Mets fans. I messaged them. I said, I think we lost our World Series chances. I don't think there's a shot if we go through the Padres that we're going to get through the Dodgers, to get through whoever, on the other side. I just don't see that happening. It's just too much of a grind. And obviously the Dodgers are the Dodgers. And we beat them years ago in the playoffs, and that team was still stacked, but this team is something else too, right? So, it was definitely disappointing to watch, and everyone was kind of, oh, what's wrong with DeGrom? He still had a quality start, but you're not going to win when you score a run. And against that potent offense, and that seemed to be the story. Or we gave the pitchers the lead. We gave Scherzer and Bassett both leads. They couldn't handle it, and we end up losing, right? And especially Bassett, who looked good through the first few innings and then just imploded, and that was it, right? So, it's disappointing, but I think we can get through the Padres. Now, if we lose in the wild card, I'm going to be furious. I just
can't wait for Monday if that happens.
Yeah. It's what we did in the offseason does not spell a wild card exit. And I think also the trade deadline, not us being aggressive, the team being aggressive, I think that's plagued the team. And then we got injuries stacking up. We don't have Starling Marte, and he's been huge for us this year. Like you're seeing the importance of Starling Marte in this lineup. We didn't have catchers who produced. Didn't have that all year. Escobar finally turned it around in the month of September. But he was up and down. So there's a lot of things that I felt that happened. And I feel I've talked to you and I've talked to my other buddies that the Braves were inevitable. Their start was not who they are as a team. And I knew they were going to go on a run. Everyone was like, oh, we're in cruise control. We don't have to worry about anyone. I'm like, the Braves are going to go start winning 12 out of 15, whatever. Go on 10-game win streaks. Go on 8-game win streaks. It's just bound to happen. They're a good team. And That's what they showed in this series too. Backs against the wall. They needed this important series. They showed up. The Mets didn't show up. They did. And they control it. The backs against the wall, they get the lead again. And it's just how you win the division. They showed they're the better team. And that's why going forward, like I'm telling you right now, I don't see the Mets, as much as I was biased early on in the season and hopeful, looking right now, I don't see the Mets being a World Series team going through the wild card. Just as is. Just there's too many issues that I've seen, the offense up and down, and then it's not performing when it matters most. And now you have the playoffs where it matters most. So we have to see how this team, bounces back. They're playing an awful Nationals team. They've scored a bunch of runs these last 2 days. They're not probably going to play anyone today. It is what it is, but now we have to see this postseason. But, I'm optimistic going to the wild card. I'm not being like, it's over, season's a lost cause. But like I said, we don't come out of the wild card. I'm going to be one of those Mets fans that's very, very angry.
Yeah, I see. At valid points. It's so easy to look back and say what should have done there and stuff. Like, I mean, the Billy Epler, the midseason acquisitions, that's a killer. Darren Ruff. I mean, what happened there? It's hard to say should you have kept JD Davis because he wasn't hitting at the beginning of the season, and of course he was killing it in San Fran this season. That's a hard pill to swallow. You probably, who I think looking back would have been a good trade, maybe a Wilmer Flores.
There were some pieces that I thought we needed. Darren Ruff, I understand, a guy who matched lefties, but he batted like sub 200 when he came here. He just forgot how to swing his bat. Vogelbach was a good acquisition, but like bullpen,
that's the big weakness.
The big thing I told you at the trade deadline was we needed a solid lefty reliever, and we didn't bring that. And we've been rocking with Joely Rodriguez as our main lefty reliever, right? And there's definitely pieces out there they could have brought back or gone, brought it, and they didn't. And so they just made kind of small acquisitions without making the big splash, but they needed another bat that's better than the Vogelbachs or the Darren Ruffs of the world. Because there's definitely someone out there that could have made a difference and kind of protected Alonso or just helped him out. I mean, he had a fantastic year. He set the Mets single season RBI record, but
40 home runs.
Yeah. Like we didn't have anyone else, and Lindor up and down. Like I said, Escobar up and down. Marte out of the lineup. We lost him, and you saw what happened with this offense. There's just no one getting really on base or hitting when it matters most. And Marte was a guy who was getting those big hits or getting on base or doing whatever he had to do, So there's things, like I said, that the Mets needed that they didn't attack, and now it's coming back to haunt them.
Also,
late in the season. So.
And a lack of extra base hits.
Exactly.
That was the kid killer. I think they had about 7 in the series against Atlanta, 7 singles, 1 extra base hit. The only person who really hit was Jack McNeil, who quietly might win a batting title. And well, it's cruel. It's cool. One question I have to ask Alex. You wanted Buck Showalter, Uncle Stevie steps up. And the one thing, whether it was ignored or not until the big moment here, that he doesn't win the big game. So far in the regular season, that isn't the case. Are you worried that the Buck Showalter curse is going to come back to haunt you?
No. No. I honestly, I think as his first year, I've been extremely happy with him.
100 games win season.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any effect until it matters right now, right? Like, I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm gonna be mad as a Met fan for being out of the wild card, but I'm not gonna really play Buck unless he makes some disastrous decisions. That's more management not putting a sufficient roster, being the aggressive team as a win now team and not doing what they needed to do, right? But I have to see when we get into the big, the big game, the NLDSs, the NLCSs, the World Series, hopefully. What happens there, right? But I'm not nervous right now. I think he's the manager we need. I think all the guys love him. I think there was just certain things he made some bad decisions here and there, but he's not out there controlling that a team can only score a run. He's putting the best lineup out there against the Braves every night, and we did nothing. And it was, what is he gonna do? He's trying his best to get these guys to score, but if the guys aren't hitting, there's nothing he can do, right? So, as of right now, I'm like I said, extremely happy. The future is bright, but it's obviously we're in a spot of disappointment right now. Just because we needed one win to just clinch it, and the team just didn't perform. And again, you look at all sports and people just blame the manager. But is he out there swinging the bat every time? No. He's putting the lineup in the win, and if they don't perform, they don't perform. And he's tried his best with the various different lineups and calling up Alvarez and trying to get this team up. And they just haven't. There's this again when we've seen this time and time again with this Mets offense is that they just fall into low periods for a series of games, and then they blew the bag against lesser teams. Look at the Cubs series. Look at the National series. Look at the Pirates.
That's a killer one. That's the Cubs sweep.
Exactly. Like they just would just hit these spots where they just couldn't hit. But Bucks is putting the lineup out there that should be hitting against these teams, and they didn't. So I'm not too worried yet. It's still too early for opinions on Buck. I've been extremely happy, but we'll see what happens come wildcard weekend and going forward what this team looks like.
And then my last question before we look into this matchup between the Padres and Mets: was it too early to call up Alvarez? 20 years old, you're coming into the biggest series of the season. I mean, I think you had to do what you had to do. No one was hitting whatsoever. For the few at-bats, he was hitting the ball hard against Major League pitching for the first time. I think the experiment was worth it, and it just didn't hit. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah. He had his first career home run yesterday, which was an absolute bomb.
Yeah.
So, we know the bat's there. And I think it was a little bit of a weird time to call him up because it was such an important series? Sure. But I think it showed that the organization has so much trust in this kid, in his future, that they felt like they were confident enough to call him up at this moment and see what he can do. And I think that's what all of us wanted to see. Like I said, our catchers all year could not hit. Nitto had his moments where he had some few right spots here and there, but he's more a defensive catcher, right? Alvarez brings a little bit of both. He's more offensive than he is defensive, but he has a little bit of everything, right? And that's what I think all of us wanted to see. Just give it a shot. Like, just all of us all year, we have this kid. Give him a shot. See what happens. And I understand people say sometimes the confidence, it gets all mixed up when you call guys up too early, but to see that he hit his first career home run, yesterday, and getting adjusted, and he hit the ball hard a few times, like you said, against MLB pitching. I think it's the right moment to see him up at the Major League roster, because I think they see going forward. And like I said, if they didn't call him up now, he was probably going to be up on the roster next season. I think after spring training, he was going to be on the team. So I think you see him now, see what he can do. Hope he is, plays well, performs well, and then you have all the almost confidence going to spring training that he will probably be your starting catcher next season as a 21-year-old, which is crazy. So
yeah, McCann's looking like the Jason Bay of catchers. What was it? 2 home runs, 16 RBIs, and
they're getting paid a good amount of money too. And just
that's a bad one.
Yep, I like the signing at the time, but again, just hasn't done anything. And I always like Nitto. I think he's a really, really good defensive catcher. He just doesn't really have a bat. He just showed some moments where he can hit home runs and big doubles and singles and stuff like that. But overall, you're not going to rely on him to put up offensive numbers for you in the catcher spot.
Great points as per usual, Alex. Now let's look into the matchup here. The Padres versus the Mets. They're going to play all weekend at Citi Field. 3-game series straight. You don't have to go out to San Diego for this. So now it's a game of chess. You had the big thing to take away. You have some stellar starting pitching on both sides. At the time of this recording, the rotations haven't been announced yet. Then they might not get announced until Thursday anyways, since this is drops. So the big question to start, looking on the Mets side. We'll look at the Mets side. Obviously, your big 3, you're going to probably pitch DeGrom, Scherzer, and Bassett, it looks like. I don't think Carrasco's pitching. No bullpen games. If it is,
be out of relief.
Yeah, exactly. So, your Buck Showalter, you're sitting at the desk. What are you going to do for the starting rotation for game 1, 2, and 3, Alex? How would you handle this?
Because Scherzer is used to short rest pitching in the postseason, we've seen it before, and I don't think he was bad against the Braves. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Scherzer gets the ball game one. Okay. I wouldn't be. I would think it's going to be Jacob, but I wouldn't be surprised if Buck knows I can get Max on short rest, and he's performed in the postseason on short rest, time in and time out. Right, get him on short rest. Then we give DeGrom an extra day, have DeGrom game 2, and then Bassett game 3.
That's
but I would.
You would go for the kill if you win game 1.
Yes, I would do that just to give Jacob an extra day. And like I said, we know Scherzer can perform on short rest. Not knowing if that's Buck's mindset, but we'll see what he kind of comes up with. I think it would either be DeGrom or Scherzer game 1, but I'm leaning more towards seeing it probably going to be DeGrom, but like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Buck, knowing Max's history, putting him in game 1 just because he knows we give Jacob an extra day of rest, and Scherzer has done extremely well when his name's called upon in short situations in the postseason. And then Bassett locks game 3. I think no matter what, it's going to be Bassett. For the Padres, I think it's most likely in their rotation, it's pretty solid. Joe Musgrove was looking like, a Cy Young candidate earlier this year. I think it's going to be probably you, Musgrove, Snell. I think that's going to be the 3. It could be switched around, but I think those 3 are going to be the guys that are going to get the ball in the Wildcard Series. So, again, we've seen Snell dominate in the postseason before. Season stats this year, pretty solid. You kind of bounce back year. Win-loss isn't great, but 3.38 ERA is not terrible at all. 171 strikeouts, and we've seen him deliver in the postseason before. So I think those are the 3 guys that we're going to see from the Padres side. Is going to be Darvish, Musgrove, Snell. So again, quality pitchers all around for this wild card series. There's nothing to seize that. There's no guys you can really attack. I mean, we've seen you collapse in the playoffs before, but still 3 quality arms.
Now, if you're setting up this lineup against this tough pitching staff, where do you go? It looks like Marte isn't going to be playing in this series, which is a huge loss and bummer. How do you think you have to attack this very, very tight pitching?
I think you have to have the guys that can get on base, like we've seen all year. I think you have to slide McNeil up a little bit. I think but it's hard because you're gonna usually have Nimmo, and then you're not gonna have lefty back to back. So I would think, and maybe it would be interesting. Maybe you would have Nimmo, Lindor, McNeil, Alonso 4 to start, and then you kind of mess around from there. And you still have Alonso in the cleanup spot. I don't know why we were having a bat 2 Alonso recently in some situations. That was weird. Keep him in the cleanup spot. That's where he's most comfortable. That's where he's going to produce. And you get 3 guys on base ahead of him. And then after that, you can put the Cannas, the Guillormes, if he's in the lineups, the Vogelbacks, all that stuff.
Yes, and you'll have to switch them if they're gonna do the Snell's a lefty, so you'll have to pitch him in. You have to put Ruff that game for a DH.
Yeah, so I think they're going to do some things where they mess around, or we have Alvarez be the DH. I know it's postseason, but have him there because Ruff hasn't hit anyone. So you face the Snell, then that kind of changes things, right? You might have Nimmo lead off still, but I don't know. And then you might have McNeil down in the lineup, and then you put Lindor, Escobar up, both switch hitters who hit lefties well, and then maybe Alonso, then Canna who hits lefties. So, it all depends, but I think you really have to get your as much offensive firepower early on in your lineup, and then have Alonso and everyone else kind of fall after that. Just because you got to attack early and you got to get runs early, especially against this Padres team. We know who they have. The Machados, the Juan Sotos.
I was going to ask. Are you worried about Juan Soto, the Met killer?
Yes.
He just so happens to come back. His first playoff series against the Mets. Whoa.
Yeah. Whoa. Of course, I'm terrified of Juan Soto. I always have and always will be. It doesn't matter what jerseys he's in. I'm always terrified of Juan Soto. He is a Met killer. He every time it's something I think I've called home runs with Juan Soto before watching Mets games. Like, yeah, that's probably he's gonna crush something, right? So, and Machado has his history with the Mets. He's been a guy who's hurt them before, right? So, we have to see it and go from there. But those two guys, I'm always nervous about, especially Juan, who's has his history with the Mets, but Machado, when we had against Padres series, he's hit some home runs and some big shots before. So those two guys are definitely going to make my nerves. I'll be a little jittery during their at bats during this wild card.
Oh man, I'm gonna be sitting and watching it with a nice beer, and I'm loving it. It's entertainment for me. Yankees won't play till the beginning of next week, so I think we covered all we need to with Mets and it's Padres. But yeah, there's a lot on the line. There's gonna be a lot of salty, angry people, even more angry now. Like this was the lead story after Jets and Giants win games, which hasn't been happening.
It's crazy.
So there's just so much of legacy going on this weekend for the Mets, and damn, it's just all you could say is damn. This is gonna be insane in every sense of the word. And all I could say is good luck. This is the
yeah.
Like I said, lost for words, just for on pure tension and entertainment colliding. I love it. So why don't we now hit on the Yankees? There was a time where I was just as mad as you were with the Yankees when they almost blew their 15-game lead. It went down to 3 at one point.
Yeah.
But the big thing that's always said that the teams who win in October are the ones who are hot. Yankees were obviously had the whole world watching it for 2 weeks for Judge to hit 62. Now that's over. Now you don't have that bug. You don't have that cloud over his head. And now we can focus on the ALDS. We get our first round bye. Sucks we're not going to get home field advantage throughout the whole playoffs, but do with what you can. And the big thing with the Yankees, their lineup, I think it's figuring out what are you going to do. And if one, Matt Carpenter's coming back, if two, Andrew Benintendi's coming back, and how does that play? Now, if you're a Yankee fan, you got to be psyched for Oswaldo Cabrera. In general, the future is bright with him. He's been killing it with us. Oswaldo Perez is looking good too. And I guess my first question to start, say that none of these guys come back and we're going to stay with this lineup. Do you think Yankees can make a run with the lineup they have if nobody returns from the injury report?
Ooh, that's tough.
It is. The lack of playoff experience for some. You're playing against much tougher pitching now. There's a lot to uphold. The big weakness that we could get into after is the Yankees bullpen. That is, we do not have defined roles there, but at least for the lineup itself, it's interesting to see what could happen. I personally think if you could bring Carpenter back, especially Benintendi, that was our peak when Carpenter was playing. And it is a lot to ask for after being out for months to start, play playoff baseball. But I think it's important to have these guys in the lineup and who've played well in the postseason. Benintendi's won the World Series. Carpenter's played in the World Series and played well in it. I think I do think it's more valuable to have those guys on the team if you can have it. But for me, I guess test the kid out. At least Cabrera, especially Cabrera, I think is going to be here to stay for a while. But yeah, that's what I think. What do you think with how do you approach this lineup if you're Boone?
Again, you have to get the guys that have been producing lately, right? And it's tough because it's been such a up and down times with this Yankees team, right? So you obviously know Judge is going to produce, so you don't have to worry about him. Giancarlo, for some reason, when it's the month of October, changes into MVP level player, so you don't have to worry about him, right? So,
DJ's done well in the postseason.
DJ's done well in the postseason. Like, you guys have the pieces to make a run. And if the injury report guys don't come back, like, I think you guys can still get past the division round, right? Like, I think you guys can do that at least. But I still think it's going to be tough, right? Like, it's this team. Like, the Mets have had their moments where you're sitting there and you're like, what the hell is going on with these guys?
Oh yeah.
And right now, it's do you attribute pitching to that? Is there hitting slumps or certain things like that? And this is not the right time to be getting in those type of slumps, right? You want to kind of have the confidence going into run, but they're going to get the rest that they need, right? Like Judge has been playing like a ridiculous amount of games,
Yeah,
chasing 62, so he's going to have a few days of rest coming up. So
I believe he played 55 straight games.
yeah. Like so, he needs some rest. He's coming up, so you guys will have that. You guys will be hopefully well rested and come in confident against whoever you guys will face off coming out of the wild card. But I think you guys can still make a run. Do I have you guys as a World Series team? I personally haven't seen it yet, but again, there's been times I always attribute. I know I'm a Mets fan, but I always attribute like the Braves or even the Mets in 2015, like Braves last year. None of us really saw them as the team that was going to make it to World Series, right? We thought, okay, they're hot. They're a hot team. They'll grind through. They'll make it tough for some teams, but they're not making the World Series. Boom, World Series. Mets in 2015, same thing. Oh, they have to go through the Cubs. They have to go through the Dodgers. They have to go this. They're not going to make it. They got hot at the right time. Boom, pushed it right all the way to the World Series. That can happen with the Yankees this year too. They're a solid team. You still have Judge, who's going to, like I said, win MVP. They have pieces. And if you have this time to rest, and hopefully some of these guys, because of these few days off of rest, can come back and produce right away in the postseason, then yeah, who says you guys can't do it? I just think it's a tough road right now with this roster. I think you guys need these guys to come back off the IL, and everyone needs to get healthy to see what this team truly is going forward. And the pitching staff has up and downs for sure. We've seen what happened with Cole in the postseason last year, and see what's going this year. Nestor's been a fantastic story this year. So I don't have you guys locked in to go into the World Series. I think it's a tough road, but like I said, this is why October baseball is fun, right? Like you have no idea what's going to happen. A team in the wild card can make it to the World Series. We have no idea what can happen here. So same thing, like I said, for the Yankees, it's going to be interesting to see how they are coming into the divisional, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see how they look right away. First two games are going to be telling for what this series is going to look like for them.
Right. I think if only the bullpen had more security to it, I'd feel great coming into it. But it's not. We don't really even have a closer. Clay Holmes, the collapse. Can't trust him anymore. Zach Britton has returned, but we don't know what he's up to. He's another guy on the IL. We'll wait to see. But of course, you can't trust him in the postseason anymore. You really want to have a third season-ending home run given up by him? No. Yeah, that's the thing. And I think when we meet early next week to talk about the ALDS, it'll be easier to at least look at the matchup ahead. But for now, as long as things click and you're right at the hot time and the talent on the Yankees team, there's no reason why they can make a push. And hopefully we get that big ALCS against Houston for, 7 years in the making to try to finally get over the hump there. And I believe that's really what we have going. And the other thing I ask is, again, we'll save this for the ALDS preview, but when it comes to the pitching matchup, at least you have three pitchers. Talent on paper who's good. Cole, I know he had his struggles. He came up short against the Red Sox in the wild card game. Nestor Cortez, people thought he was a Cy Young candidate at one point, and he could get some Cy Young votes. But regardless, great pitcher you could trust. And the big thing, especially coming out of this week, Luis Severino.
Yes.
Looking awesome. Throwing a no-hitter into the seventh. He's pitched in the big game before, both doing really bad, like really, really bad. Like the wild card game against Minnesota was looking really, really shitty at one point, but then he pitched well in the postseason as well. But regardless, Sevy now, and after waiting 60 days on the IL, looking great. Yeah. So much momentum. And I think can have a better idea of how the Yankees are going to look when we talk early next week for the division series. But momentum's high, and that's all you can ask for coming into this series. And so just to look at some of the other wild card matchups, Cleveland and Tampa Bay. Cleveland, nobody really expected them to be at this point. They thought maybe the Chicago White Sox were the team, but
That was me. I was one of those guys.
Oh yes, me too. But Terry Francona shows he still's got something going with his young pitching staff, young contact hitters, and I think they're playing with house money. Tampa Bay being Tampa Bay, even though nobody supports them down in Florida, they just keep winning games, getting more more postseason experience. They were just in the World Series 2 years ago. I think this is going to be an interesting matchup against two small market teams. Who do you see winning in a 3-game series in this matchup?
It's really tough because I like both teams. I think they're both really, really solid. And I thought with the Guardians, like I thought, they were going into like the rebuild mode with some of the moves they made and trading, guys like Lindor and some of the other pieces that they traded away. And then you're like, oh, they're going to, next thing you know, they're in the wild card this year. And no one saw that, so props to Francona and them because they have just do brilliant work all the time.
Right.
And Tampa, steady winning all the time, right? They're just a consistently solid team. But to me, there's something about the Guardians I like this year. They're just young. They still have Jose Ramirez. They still have a good complete roster in their staff. I think they can beat the Rays in 3 games. I really do. So I'm gonna take the Guardians in that series. Although, like I said, it's really a coin flip for these guys. Just because Tampa's a 6 seed doesn't mean they're a bad team by any means. They're a very, very solid team. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm going to go with the Guardians this year with them. There's something about them that I really, really like.
Yeah, I think especially their pitching is the thing. When you have people like Trent McKenzie started to become a star and stuff like that, I think that's going to be the special thing coming into their series. And the winner of that matchup would play. I just had it right here. Excuse me. The winner of that matchup would play the Yankees in the ALDS. And now for the other ALCS, Toronto versus Seattle. Seattle makes their first playoff appearance in 21 years.
Yep.
A guy named Julio Rodriguez. That's all you need. Well, that's all you need, but that clearly shows a star player putting the team on his back, making huge moves for Winkler and Eugenio Suarez. Has been a stellar move in this offseason. Pitching is really well, but then you have a Toronto Blue Jays team who also, they probably arguably one of the best lineups on paper with Bo Bichette and George Springer, Vlad Guerrero Jr. obviously. So again, I think another interesting matchup ahead in this one. And the home field advantage goes to Toronto north of the border.
Yeah, which I think is so unfortunate, right? Because you saw Seattle when they locked their spot, which was like the most dramatic way to lock a postseason spot.
Yes, big walk-off.
Cal Raleigh walk-off home run, and they don't get a single postseason game this year. How crazy is that, right? Like you waited 20 years and you can't see your team play in the postseason. But again, congrats to Seattle. It was way, way, way long overdue, but just a dramatic way to get it. And just to see Seattle rocking again for their team was awesome. But, Julio's been hurt up and down this year, so we'll see what happens there. But again, with this, it's tough. The AL East this year is just think about it. There's 3 AL East teams in the
right
here. Just crazy. Toronto has home field. They're crazy over there for their team when it comes to postseason. We've seen it before. That place can be electric.
Literally rocks.
Yeah. I like Seattle. I think they have a very bright future. They lock up their pitching, making a great move at the deadline, and that has worked wonders for them. So I think it's a good first step. But I think the Blue Jays are gonna advance. I just like the core with Bo Bichette and Vladdy and George Springer and all them who've all performed well. And you look at Vladdy and everyone's having a down year. The dude hit 30 home runs again this year, and his OPS and everything was off the charts. So down year and hit 30 home runs. Yeah, that's kind of crazy for me. So I'm gonna go with the Blue Jays here, but again, I just think the future is definitely very bright in Seattle. Like I said, seeing what Luis Castillo's done at the deadline for them and anchoring that rotation has been awesome. So great story for Seattle, but I think unfortunately it ends in the wild card this year.
I don't disagree with you. I think the Blue Jays have the edge with their hitters. And I know he was hit hard, but if you have pitchers like Robbie Ray go well, Ryu, they should be in a good place. So Toronto, I think, is going to win that one. And wouldn't it be funny if Jay Happ, who returned to Toronto, who shit the bed for the Yankees when he pitched for them in the playoffs, maybe he can avenge himself if he's going to get a start. Okay, this is actually the one I'm probably most excited for with all the wild card. Well, no, sorry, I shouldn't say that. Obviously, the Mets and Padres I'm most excited for, but the second most, the Cardinals and the Phillies, two very interesting teams who arguably at first you didn't see coming, but yet they're out here. You have the Cardinals' magical season with all their oldies in Pujols, Yadi, and Wainwright. They have one more postseason run. You have probably the NL MVP and Paul Goldschmidt there, Paul DeYoung, with a great mixture of both power and contact hitters. They are here in a huge way going into this after the Brewers, who somehow I guess people forgot they really screwed up in the AL and the NL Central. Whether they get a pass or not, the Cardinals took advantage of it, and they are in it with home field advantage in the NL wildcard. Then you have the Phillies, who fired Joe Girardi in June, who had a major injury in Bryce Harper. They were not looking good, but again, just keep winning series with people like Carl Schwarber holding the team on their back, and now they are here to stay. So two teams with magical runs playing each other in the Wildcard Series this weekend. One of them is going to end. It's going to end for one of them. Who do you think it's going to be that team who's going to be striving, and who's that team who's going to be crying?
It's a tough one for that matchup. Also, kind of crazy. Just realized there's 3 NL East teams in the playoffs and 3 AL East teams in the playoffs. Just realized that, which is
something good
crazy.
In the water over here.
Just something. Honestly, Phillies just snuck in. Got Harper back at the right time and kind of ran it to the end. They're a very, very up and down team, and I'm not trying to be a biased Mets fan here, but they're such a very up and down team to me.
Yeah.
Cardinals are just so dialed in. They're always great in the playoffs, and just seeing what Pujols is doing, I think he's going to have one more magical postseason run in him. And I'm like I said, I'm not trying to be biased here. I wouldn't be surprised either. Just the way he's been playing, it's ridiculous. And congrats to him, 700 home runs, and he passed Babe Ruth. I think he's at 702 now.
He's at 703. He passed him for the RBIs.
But he passed Babe Ruth in the total RBIs, which is just ridiculous. Again, might not ever see anything like this again. So, enjoy it while we can, and that's why I want to keep on enjoying Pujols. One more postseason magical run. I think they're going to win in the wild card over the Phillies.
Okay, great pick, Alex. And again, for these next 3 teams, in the Braves, Dodgers, and Houston, I think there's more of a preview to happen when we hit the division series.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering, out of those 3 teams who've all been pretty dominant in their leagues respectively, is there anything you take away from those 3 franchises you like coming into it?
Dodgers are the Dodgers, right? They're still just a dominant team. No matter what you do, that roster is always stacked, right? And it's crazy to me with this team. It always seems that they always have pitchers. Like, pitcher goes down, but then someone's always there to just like pick it up. They just have an infinity of pitchers.
There's no Walker Buehler, and then
they're still the number 1 seed. They lose Walker Buehler. I'm like, well, that's a big loss. And then they're just like, yeah, no, we're fine. Don't worry about us. We're still good. And it's like, what do you mean? You just lost a guy who has the potential to be an ace in a rotation. It's just crazy to me. But Dodgers always solid. Atlanta again, just hot at the right time. Showed up when it mattered most this week. I think they're a great team on paper. I think it's unfortunate that they lost Ozzy Albies a game after he came back. If he was fully healthy the rest of the way, I think they're a lock to maybe make it back to the World Series. But again, they just showed up when it matters most. They can put offense up when they need to. They come up with the clutch hits. They have a deep roster. Dansby Swanson had a great year. He destroyed the Mets in that series. So I think they're a team to look out for too. Right now, though, I think the team I'm looking at the NL to come out of the NL is the Dodgers. I think that for me, I think that's the team to look out for. Houston, again, they almost had. Did they have a no hitter? No, they almost had a no hitter. I didn't see the alert.
They blew it in the 8th
They
inning.
blew it in the 8th
last
inning.
night.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I swiped off the alert and then forgot to go back and look, so I didn't know if they completed it. But again, almost 2 combined no hitters in the same season. I don't know if that's happened before. Maybe it has.
I don't
I don't
think
remember.
so.
But again, consistent winning, and a lot of people thought last year, a few years ago, like this Astro team's gonna be different. They lose Correa, they didn't have Verlander for the year or whatever the case might be. And the team comes back this year. They don't need Correa. They're still dominant coming out in that division. But for me, just story wise, I love like the overcoming stories. Deficit down. I would love to see the Yankees make it to the LCS and finally get over this Astros hill. That would be me as a baseball fan. It's like finally they did it. It took long enough. But they're just so consistently good, just up and down the board. And I think they're going to be a really tough team out of the AL. But like I said, we don't know what happens with baseball. But for me, I think the teams to look out for, and it's easier than the 1 seeds. But it's the Dodgers and Astros. I think you just look at those teams. They're just such a complete team all around, and just have great management and great pitching, and just know how to win when it matters most, and get there. And they all have experience in this environment, and it's going to be crazy. But I think we'll dive in a little bit more once we kind of know the matchups, because once we see these matchups, you never know. Blue Jays get on, and we've seen Astros and Blue Jays battle each other and have tough battles and stuff like that. So it all matters coming out of the divisional series. I think we can do more deep dives when it in. But to me, honestly, I think the Astros and the Dodgers would be the most likely teams to make it to the World Series this year. That's just me in my eyes, just because of the teams. Yeah.
Dodgers, Astros. That's your World Series prediction as of today.
Early on, but I would love to see the Yankees finally crack them, but I don't know. This Astros team, seeing these last few weeks, they just look like they're on a roll. They really do.
Yeah, you get rid of Correa and Springer, you bring in Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah.
I just a Verlander ending the season with a 1.75 ERA.
Yep.
You can't beat it. Established closer. And
who's the short? I'm trying to think. Who's the shortstop on the? I'm blanking on his name. Oh, Jeremy Pena.
Yep.
You lose Correa, and this guy comes in this year, bats .253 with 22 home runs and 63 RBIs in 136 games. Like, got the similar production from this kid, and this kid is 24 years old. So
all I could ask, get ready for that short series. And well, let's first get there. I'm going to stick my prediction, the Yankees Dodgers, which at the time, and I said that was a pure prediction on faith, because when we had IKF and an old Josh Donaldson, well, it wasn't looking too pretty. But then with the rise of Nestor Cortez and Luis Severino coming back to form, and a Yankee team that's hot right now, you got to take advantage. And I will say, major changes if this Yankee team doesn't win it all, or at least win the pennant. Major changes have to be happening, because clearly this core is not going to do it if they don't win it this time. And we'll go with it there. So, Alex, pleasure as always.
Yeah.
Thank you for your stellar work. I will see you early next week to preview the NLDS, ALDS, go on from there, and hopefully we reflect us some good Mets baseball. I'd like to see them win this. It's going to be a fun weekend. And if not, bring your Frank the Tank out, dude. Bring your Frank the Tank out.
Yeah. A lot of people haven't seen me mad on this show. I think the last time I was mad was when we were doing a Giants talk, potentially.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a little bit since Angry Alex has made an appearance. I know Ranelli on the NFL show, he was messaging me when I was at the Cowboys game, and he was like, we need to have you on. And I was like, I think Matt is trying to figure out how this Giants season is going to go before he has me on, just because I know you like when I get animated. So we'll see. Hopefully it's a good wild card series, so I'm not too stressed out this weekend. But when we preview it, we'll dive in, and maybe Angry Alex makes an appearance, but hopefully it does not.
Well, I selfishly want that for Rays wise, but we're gonna keep it going. And we, like I said, we talked before. We see you on some NFL shows this season coming up as well, especially with your new schedule, which is gonna be really exciting. So, Alex Young, I'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Be in touch, and bring out that energy with or without a Mets wild card win, and we'll recover the other teams as well.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me again, Matt, and I'll see you guys soon.
You're the man, Alex. See you soon.